everyone. Kira Schaefer here and Tony Manier, Pastor Tony Manier here. And we are coming to you live. We want to talk about ageism in the church and that learning about how we can grow and learn together as a community of people, as the body of the church.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think within the congregational tradition, when a minister begins to explore and looks at other churches, one of the things they get is a profile, and in that profile it tells them the age demographics of a congregation. And we are finding more and more that those profiles are, with mainline churches, are focused on and dealing with a growing age of its members. And that's becoming, so for example, some churches, the average age might be in the 60s, 70s, and that is not shocking at all. In fact, that's kind of become a norm that we see taking place. So that's the challenge is individuals will visit a church that maybe are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they look around and they see a bunch of individuals with gray hair, and they say, I guess this isn't for me.
This isn't my church.
Right. And they walk out.
Yeah. And it's funny to me because I think from my standpoint, so I'm 40, I just turned 40, and that wasn't necessarily an uncommon thing for me either, to walk in and go, okay, so there's some
but
data
now they're the 20-year-olds looking at you going, oh man, do I have to hang out with her?
That is messed up.
I know. I'm telling you. Wait till you go over 50, and then it's really messed up.
Gosh. All right. Well, all I know is that I know that I had some of those limitations in my mindset as well. And when I first came to work here, I could see, okay, from a marketing scene, because I do the marketing here. I'm the pastoral associate in marketing person. Associate. So I look at these kinds of things as from a marketing perspective. And when I look around, I'm like, okay, well, usually people buy from people who are like them and are like them. And if we're looking for people with more families, or we're looking for people that are younger, that are going to be a part of our congregation long into the future, then we want to be able to say, yes, this is your place too. When someone walks in, this is not just to Church of the Beatitudes. This is a very common problem with I say it's a problem, challenge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, with a lot of churches. And when people come in, they want to see people who are like them. Do I have a support system, a group, people I can relate to within my age range? Some of my kids
can play with.
Yes, absolutely. And the challenge with that is that they don't see beyond that initial interaction or that initial perception. And what we're wanting to do here today is to help take away some of that.
Right.
Yeah.
When I looked at this church, the age demographic was definitely on the higher side, and we often see a disconnect. I've had it happen to me twice on two different occasions. A college-age student got on our website, got on Facebook, looked at it, and said, wow, this is a more open church, and they're open to new ideas. They're not afraid of questions. Let's go check it out. So they came, and afterwards they asked if they could, this one person, and then another opportunity, another individual said they wanted to meet with me for coffee. And in both incidents, they both said, we saw this progressive information, your banner out in front of the church, and we walked in and we saw these gray hairs, and we thought, oh, and it didn't make sense for them. For them, it was literally this disconnect. It didn't make sense. Right. And I think the challenge is that we see is that individuals immediately think that because you're getting older, that means you become more conservative, which, by the way, more than likely is true.
Yeah.
And there seems to be evidence.
And we're using the term conservative in a non-political mindset.
Correct.
Right. We're saying conservative, a little bit more reserved.
Right. as we get older, in fact, well, yeah, well, you just hit 40, so your brain's really starting to slow down. 20, they're saying 20 is prime when it comes for your brain able to process new information.
Brain able to process new information.
That's in the 20s. In the 40s, it kind of is one of those places where it slows down even more,
right.
And then again in the 60s it slows down even more, and so
I feel like mine is slow too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to learn anything new, don't tell me anything new, I don't care anymore, I just want to sit on this couch and just let me go back to sleep.
Yeah, and see, for me it's almost become the opposite.
Yeah, well, you're an exception to the rule.
I talked to an 88-year-old woman earlier this morning, and she told me, she said, I find that over the last 2 to 3 years, I've actually have more questions than I do less questions. So what actually happens is that your brain can, because it processes information slower, it becomes more comfortable to actually not have to deal with more information, because you probably already got all that stuff up there. I mean, you're talking a 75-year-old, 75 years of experiences and information that
right.
is there. If it takes longer to process and recall that information, it can explain why, as people get older, they tend to have a tendency not to want to change their ways of thinking, their ideas, and become comfortable. And it also gives them a great deal of self-esteem, a sense of comfort of knowing what they know. Right. However, a lot has to be taken into consideration where, what I would call, where the starting point was. For example, if you have a person who is truly open-minded, who is curious, who is always looking to understand new ideas, is continuing to put themselves out there to find new experiences and be able to talk to other people and learn, continually learning and exploring, those individuals actually, if they slowed down, would be further ahead than the majority of people to begin with. And I think that's one of the things that I find here at Church of the Beatitudes is we have a significant number of individuals who very early on in their lives were on that open-ended side, and were exploring ideas and thinking outside the box. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, they were thinking of things that many people who consider themselves open-minded are just beginning to think about.
Right, yeah.
So even though for some of our members, their brains, like all of us, as we age, slow down, they're more like that, I guess like a fine bottle of wine. Yeah. The older it gets, the smoother it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly right. And
it's water I'm drinking, not wine.
And I've got to speed my brain up. That's why I'm drinking coffee. Yeah. Shameless plug for Starbucks. So, what's interesting to me, and this is something that actually shifted a lot of my belief systems around coming to this church, because I'm here pretty much every Sunday with you, and I'll do a call to silence, and I'll do kind of the announcements, things like that. And the moment that I really realized that I was in the presence of wisdom and really amazing people, and people who have seen it all and been through it all, and could support me and love me and care for me. There was one in particular that really helped me see this congregation better. There was a gentleman, we were doing a kind of a peace vigil. There's been a ton of tragic things happen over the last year, and we were doing a little bit of a peace vigil.
Yeah, it was after one of those shootings, I think it was.
Yes. And one gentleman got up and in advanced years, and he said, I inadvertently went to a KKK meeting when I was a kid, and he didn't realize that was the kind of meeting that he was going to. And he was listening to the people talking in the anger and the rhetoric and the stuff. And the next day, he decided to go down to his NAACP office and write them a check to give them money to support the cause of Black rights and civil rights. It was interesting because he said, when I went in and talked to the person there, and I guess this is in the 60s, 70s, and when I went in, the gentleman there said, I don't want you to write a check. I would rather not have your money than for you to write a check. And he said, why? He said, because if I cash this check, your name is now in those bank records and on that system, and we could put you in danger. And, for some reason, that just, and he gave him the money anyway, for some reason, my heart just went, oh my gosh, I have never seen that. I've never lived through that. I've never been willing to put my life and my thing on the line in order to support a cause. And so there are people here that we don't necessarily go out and picket, and we don't go out there and we do rallies, and we don't, but there are people here that were social justice before there was anything called social justice. Yeah. And so for me, I was just like, wow, you guys are so amazing. And the love and the connection and the hugs, and I mean, people will hold my hand, and I work here, and they do that for each other, and they support each other, and we help the homeless, and there's so much that's going on that you would miss out on if you walked in and walked out because you just saw there was gray hair or no hair.
The other one that I find really interesting is there's a movement going on right now where they call it intergenerational communities, and they are groups, especially more in the rural areas, that are bringing together and specifically targeting a wide variety of age groups and building a tract of homes around that, so that individuals have this built-in support system where individuals that for example, with foster kids that don't have the support system they need that you would normally have in your own family. These are individuals then who are retired and enjoy being around kids. They can help them and support them. They get together as a community to make the kind of like a homeowners association, to make the rules that they're going to be going by. So I think there's a lot that we are beginning to see in society at large. And I think more and more churches are looking at ways in which we can become intergenerational. It used to be in the mainline churches that when you came to church, your kids went to Sunday school or to the youth group, and then you went to church, and they kind of everyone dispersed and went in different directions, and you literally had people in different places. Now more and more we're seeing, and Beatitudes is providing more and more options for families, so that when you come to church, if you want your child to be in Sunday school, if your child wants that on a particular Sunday, they can be in, I think we do K through 6, they can be in Sunday school, and our junior high and senior high stay in church. So we're trying to, again, create that sense, but we're trying to engage them more in church, having them read,
do
having
accolades.
them, lighting of candles,
move the slides,
ushering, So there's ways that we're trying to integrate them. If on a given Sunday you wanted your child to stay in church with you, after church we have an abbreviated Sunday school so that they can still have that experience. So I think we are among other churches that are trying to become more of this intergenerational. It was like this 88-year-old woman I mentioned before. She said to me, one of the things that I value is when I can sit with someone who is in their 20s and just ask them questions and learn from them and find out how they see the world, how they see the challenges. And we are realizing as a society that we need this, because there is too much ageism across all ages. There's older people that are trying to hold young people down, not giving them our opportunities, feeling threatened by them. And then there's older people that come to a point in their lives where they feel like they're useless. No one is interested in them anymore. They don't have nothing to add to society. I think at Beatitudes and other churches are beginning to realize we need, as a healthy society, we need each other, all ages, to truly be integrated is a big priority for us going forward.
It's amazing. They're so, I'd say I know all of the members here, I think, just about. Very, very close. I've been working here for about a year and a half. And it's a journey, to get to know them, get to know their story, to, hear how they handle things, and how many of them are very calm and centered, very balanced. They have an answer, in not a negative way, not like your mom, like what? Let me tell you what you should do. More of a contemplative and connective way, and they're not trying to tell you who you should or shouldn't be, and so to me that's a little different, because in Church of the Beatitudes as a whole, we don't tell anyone what to think. Even if we disagree or we have challenges, we don't say what's right or what's wrong. You get to make that choice yourself, and that is echoed through our congregation. And so you could come to them with any type of situation that you have going on, and you could say, this really scares me, or this is upsetting me. This is what church is about community. It's not just about sermon on Sunday. It's about how do we support and love each other as a community. And I feel that Church of the Beatitudes does this really well, especially for those young families or those single folks that are coming in, or LGBTQ community that are coming in to say, I need a support system that will love me, because my family may not be there, through a multitude of different reasons. And for me, that is the value of having an older congregation in general, because you have this knowledge base to pull from that you may not have in any other community situation.
No. I would encourage, number one, myself, and then encourage all people to really examine the idea of yourself as being open-minded versus closed-minded. And if you're not sure what that means, you can get on the internet and Google that, and you'll find out that there's all sorts of ways that you can discern where you are on that spectrum, and then what you can do to become maybe a little bit more open-minded and more curious about other people and their lives, and really begin to think about when someone says and shares their opinion on something, rather than just holding that on the surface level. Ask questions and think about on a lower level, what motivates that? Where is that coming from? What experiences form that for that person? And I think if we can do that in the area of spirituality, especially in spiritual communities, that rollover effect can be pretty awesome for the rest of our society, that we can really sit down with someone that, for example, if, I don't carry a gun. If I see someone who does carry a gun, rather than just being judgmental of them, actually maybe try to strike up a conversation and find out why. And in a very non-judgmental way. And I think that's what we need in a healthy society, is that openness that comes across. And the more we can expose ourselves to a wide spectrum of people, and especially in the area of aging, a wide variety of ages.
You become rich.
Yeah.
It's enrichment.
It's like that smooth wine.
That's right.
Water.
Water.
It's like that smooth water.
Smooth water. It's good. Well, I feel that it's important that we said this to you guys, because I feel that if it doesn't get said, it doesn't get communicated. Then if you walk in and you're like, well, what's going on here? At least now you know who we are and what we're about. And we're about community, really. Yeah,
and I would encourage you, if you ever visit our church, that allow maybe an extra 15-20 minutes. We worship at 10, we're walking out by 11. Allow yourself till like 11:15, 11:20, and walk down and get a cup of coffee and a few cookies, or stuff, and actually sit and talk to some of the older members. And I think you will find it to be a very enlightening
Oh yeah.
Experience. Yeah, because
I tell you, okay. One time I walked into fellowship, and there was folks sitting around. We had a younger couple, probably in their mid-30s. We had a couple older folks, like 60s, 70s, and they were all sitting around this table together. And I walked in,
excuse me.
and that's okay. And I walked in, and I sat down just to sit down, just to hang out for a second. And I sat down, and they were having this really deep, like, in-depth conversation about flags of different countries, flags of different. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? And they were just so enthralled in this conversation about the different types of. And I'm like, I think I sat down at the wrong table. I think this table is way too intelligent for me. I'm gonna go over somewhere. I'm gonna go sit at the kids' table because they're talking about way more fun things.
I had a guy that was one of our members who went to these lectures on the environment, and afterwards I talked to him, and this guy I think has got to be in his 80s, and it was amazing. He said, that guy really gave me a lot to think about, but what it made him think about was actually a more open, liberal, again, not in a political sense, but just a more radical way of thinking than this guy that was actually doing the lecture. And so instead of becoming more entrenched or ignoring, he actually felt challenged in a different direction than maybe even the person making the lecture was. And the other thing that was encouraging was that this member had very much a sense of hope, recognizing the challenges that we face when it comes to our environment and global warming and such. This guy still believes in the basic value of humanity, and that humanity is going to be okay because we will band together and we will work through it. It may be bumpy, it may take us some hard hits to get there, but in the long run,
it's going to be okay.
So it's amazing, these people.
Yeah. So if you want to come and enjoy a group of people who are kind-hearted, who are a little bit nutty, who aren't perfect, who are flawed, and who just want to connect together in love and purpose and education and communication and all that stuff. If you just want to be with a group of people who you don't have to do a whole lot for them to care about you.
Yeah.
Then come on Sundays.
Yes.
We're here. And we also do other types of events. We do different things like that. We do the fellowship, and there's also adult education with Interobang, and that's after the church service at 11:15. So there's lots of options that you have to plug in, and we hope that you do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm planning actually on probably coming this Sunday then.
Oh. Me too. I think that sounds fun. All right, guys, do you feel done?
I feel done.
I feel done too. All right. Well, we'll see you again soon.
Have a good one.
Hopefully on Sunday. Bye.